All right, very good. Welcome. My name is Kim Dunn, and I'm going to be your presenter today for our webinar on identifying the qualities of a human-centric leader. So thank you so much for joining us. I am a consultant, strategic human resource consultant for the Employers Association of the Northeast, and I'm thrilled to be here with you today to talk about this really important topic. Hopefully we'll share some ideas and understand a little bit more about human-centric leadership. It's important for us all in the workplace, both as leaders and as human resource professionals, to understand the value of human-centric leadership. So just a couple of housekeeping items before we jump into identifying qualities of a human-centric leader. If you have questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A. I did open up the chat, so we should be able to see each other's comments in there. If you and we are recording the webinar, and the slides will be sent to you later today so that you can revisit it, and they will also be published on our website. So today's program objectives is really identifying what makes up a human-centric leader, why is being a human-centric leader important, and what is a human-centric workplace, and how can we make that transition, and why it matters both to the organization and to its employees. So first, let's start off with what a human-centric leadership is. It's really about treating humans as humans, recognizing their struggles, their contributions, and it makes gratitude and flexibility part of the company culture. So what does that really mean? Based on the definition, does anyone work for a human-centric leader now? I encourage you to put it in the chat. So it's either a yes or a no, but based on this definition, treating humans as humans, recognizing their struggles, contributions, and makes gratitude and flexibility part of the way we work every day. We got lots of yes. That's awesome. Mostly yes. It's more and more okay to be a human-centric leader, where I can tell you 20 years ago in the workplace, human-centric leadership may have appeared as weakness. I asked a group of people, we were in a class last week, and I asked people about empathetic leaders and what they thought if they asked their CEO to be more empathetic, if they thought that would feel like it was weak. And unanimously, everyone said yes. So we're going to learn a little bit more about human-centric and how empathy plays into human-centric leadership. But I'm really happy to see that lots of people already work for someone who treats humans like humans. So human-centric leadership is defined as leading with authenticity, empathy, and adaptivity. These traits have been listed for some time among the key qualities of great leaders, but they've always, for at least a very long time, they've been considered nice to have, not have to have. Today's employees, especially our millennials and Gen Zs, are demanding these qualities. Millennials and Gen Zs will not work for a leader who doesn't appreciate what they're bringing to the table and sharing with them why they're important to the workplace. And we can get a little frustrated with that sometimes and say, well, why do we have to change because the people entering the workforce today are looking for it? But it's really about the workplace of the future. So our millennials and Gen Zs are the workers of the future. And if that's what they're looking for, it's important that we're able to give that to them in the leadership that we share. And when we sit back and think about, do we want to be led by someone who wants to lead us as humans? There's really nothing bad about that. So is human-centric just another buzzword? I did a little research to see, what are other words that are human-centric centered. And some of those words are, people focused or empathetic. But when we look at human-centered, people-focused, people-oriented, there's a word that describes it, and I'll try to say this correctly, anthropocentric. It sounds fancy, but it is meaningful since we're all humans, and humans are at the center of most organizations. Is there a downside to putting humans at the center of our work? I had to stop and ask myself, when we identify who the best people are to work with animals and veterinarians, we say, well, those are the people who really care about animals and their well-being. And then I think, well, why wouldn't we want people who care about humans as leaders in our workplace? So placing humans at the center of something and giving preference to humans above all considerations is really what human-centric is all about. So the first word I want to really dive into is authentic. Act with purpose and enable true self-expression for themselves and their teams. Put simply, authenticity means that you're true to your own personality, your values, your spirit. I apologize. I just had a little technology issue here. Your values, your spirit, regardless of the pressure that you're under to act otherwise. You're honest with yourself and with others, and you take responsibility for your mistakes. Your values, ideals, and actions are aligned. So I look at this when I'm recruiting leaders and when coaching with leaders. It takes a lot of energy for us to not be authentic, but so often leaders find themselves trying to be something that they're not, and they're uncomfortable in their position. When they're not authentic with themselves, they will not be able to support a team of members. They will not be able to support their team members in being authentic. So it's something, so many times I'm interviewing people and I ask them, what's the most important concept to you in leadership, or what do you want in your leader? And they say, we just want our leader to be authentic. We want them to be true to the way that we carry on our work and we treat people. So authenticity, true self-expression is key to being a human-centric leader. Empathetic is the next one. So showing genuine care, respect, and concern for an employee's well-being. It is not the same as sympathetic. So sometimes it's easy to get confused about those things. Sympathy is more about a feeling of pity for another. Empathy is our ability to understand how someone feels, while sympathy is our relief in not having the same problems. So when we relate with empathy, we give the other person space to own their emotions and feelings. Very, very key in being a true and authentic leader is to be empathetic. And then the last of the three key points is being adaptive. So enable flexibility and support that fit the unique needs of the teams. So would you rather work for a rigid boss or an adaptive boss? Sometimes I think in HR, we may come across as rigid because it's our job to enforce policies, and we all often are put in the position to be the fairness cop. So sometimes it feels rigid. We sometimes get burnt out and resort to strict guidelines versus encouraging leaders to be more adaptive. This may be an area for HR to attempt to lead the way. I think it's about a different mindset. And coming out of the pandemic, so many things have changed for us. It's been hard to keep up and to continue to be that supportive person. But when we think about if we're going to be a human-centric leader, our organization is going to ask us, please follow policies and procedures. Please make sure that we're treating people fairly. We can still treat people fairly and be adaptive. If we are listening to our people and what they need, as long as at the end, we're getting the work done, and we're not giving one person or a group of people a bigger benefit than someone else. Most times, the things our employees are asking us to be adaptive about are really pretty simple and can easily be built into the way we do work. So this next slide, the 13 characteristics of human-centered leaders. As I look through this slide and I see the words interested, caring, honest, sees opportunities, inspires, seeks feedback, calm, learner, walks the walk, thankful, diplomatic, inspires, and honest, I can't see a word on here that doesn't make me think of some of the best leaders that I've worked for and the people that I truly would want to continue to work for into the future. So when you're thinking about being human-centric and you're thinking about the leaders that you are there to support and work with, being human-centered is not weak. Being human-centered is powerful. And these words are a wonderful way to describe how that actually looks like. So why is being human-centric important? So through example, human-centric leaders inspire people to give their best and to choose to do the tasks that allow them to meet the objectives set instead of being forced to do them by imposition of a leader. So according to Gallup, 75% of job resignations are related to direct supervisors. We've been hearing this for years and years when we talk about benefits or compensation. It's always our gut feel that money is the most important thing. But survey after survey in the last 20 years has turned up that really the employee supervisor is the most important reason for them to stay or leave a job. And when people are leaving a job, as Gallup's survey says, 75% of resignations are due to their supervisor. So we just have to remember, happy, motivated people with a clear and shared purpose will generate better results and make things happen. Especially millennials and Gen Zs, these characteristics are, they're a non-starter. If the leader that they go to work for is not someone that cares about their success and is willing to invest in them, they will not stay with that organization. So when we think about the war on talent, human-centric leaders will always win the war. So what about a human-centric workplace? It's described as if a human-centric leader treats humans as humans and recognizes their struggles, makes gratitude and flexibility part of the culture, then what does the workplace actually look like? So we can learn so much from our members in the health and human service world because they do this every single day for the people they serve. I've learned so much over the last couple of years in, how you approach treating people as humans. And we will need to do that for the people that we serve and for our customers. So when we think of some words describing human-centric workplace, motivates, engages, empowers, encourages, appreciates, and recognizes. These are all words that describe what it would look like to work in a human-centric workplace. So there's really two schools of thought when it comes to employees, to what employees are to a business. And I think when I think of the left side of this, grind culture. So employees are all cogs in a machine. If we use up a cog by working it too hard, we can replace it. So famously, Amazon demands unreasonably high standards and then calls out those who get burned out. So, there's great things Amazon does. I'm not here to pick on Amazon, but when we think about the workplace that we're creating, are we creating these cogs that are getting burnt out, or are we in some way fulfilling them so that they can become an important part of the business and feel that important part of the business? And then when we look at the right side and we think about human-centric, so employees are humans with multifaceted lives. If I take their needs into account, I cultivate loyalty and productivity, which in turn benefits the company. This viewpoint advocates making life and work good for your people and expecting great returns. So when we interview people that work for amazing companies, and probably some of those who put yes into the chat box earlier that they work for someone who has these human-centric values, they're going to build more loyalty. And back to the war on talent, would we rather be a little bit more flexible, be a little bit more human focused, and actually be able to retain the employees that we've invested so much time and so much money in developing? Or do we want to be part of that grind culture that's just pouring through people, replacing them? And sometimes we're upgrading, but in most cases, if we work in an organization that truly has that grind culture, the cost of turnover, the cost of training, and truly the culture that's being created in that environment is not going to attract the best and brightest to our organization. So when we think about human-centric workplace, organizations are made up of people. Without them, we could not fulfill any objective. So when we're talking about the business, and hopefully we go back to our organizations and talk with our senior leadership team about a human-centric workplace, they're going to say, yeah, but what about quarterly objectives and revenue goals and number of sales? We need to remind them and remind ourselves sometimes that these are all goals that are achieved by people, by humans, the humans in the workplace. So if organizations are made up of people, then without them, we wouldn't be able to reach any of our objectives. So why does it feel weak to be people focused? I hear this time and time again, that people come to HR, they're saying, you know what, I'm trying to get my leaders to be a little bit more people focused. And they keep saying, you know what, we've got to meet our quarterly objectives. We have to make profit. They don't have time. It made me stop and think a little bit about whether we'd have labor unions today if we were more human-centric. So back in the 1800s, workers organized unions to solve their problems. Workers went to someone, they needed a spokesperson because they had problems with low wages or unsafe working conditions. If we were more human-centric leaders back in the 1800s, we likely wouldn't have labor unions today. So Fast Company, which is an organization that has this amazing magazine that comes out each month, they identify the 7 qualities of human-centric workplace. And I'll break these down into really 3 buckets. So the first bucket is really create a better human experience. So we talk about the workplace experience, what are people getting out of the company they work for? So creating that better human experience at work. The second bucket is about building resilience, teaching our people and our teams to be resilient. And then the third bucket is about offering flexibility. So starting with creating a better human experience, the better someone feels about going to work every day, the happier they'll be in their job and the more productive they'll be. I know Allison often shares a slide and it says something about culture is about how you feel on Sunday night before you come to work on Monday. By creating human experiences, such as the spaces where employees can talk and share ideas, as well as making moments that will help people bond, make people feel more invested in the company. So it's a big challenge today because we are doing this webinar. We're remote. We're not all in the same room. And so many workplaces have adapted to hybrid workplaces or work from home situations. But creating that opportunity for people to bond and feel good about the place that they work. Specifically for workspaces, Creating comfortable areas designed to maximize productivity, and space for downtime and recharging. It used to be that being able to get free coffee at work was a perk. Today, in an organization, if you're charging your employees for coffee, probably doesn't feel like one of the best places to work. So creating that atmosphere, and even helping people want to come into the office so that atmosphere feels good when they leave at the end of the day. Inclusivity. So making people having a better human experience also means including people. So human-centric workplaces welcome humans. This means creating that inclusive culture that welcomes thoughts, ideas, and cultures to the workplace. Empathetic leadership, we already talked a little bit about, but leaders making an effort to embody a leadership style that is positive, empathetic, actively learning, allowing people to have active learning experiences, and making sure that people are heard and acknowledged. And then fair pay and benefits. Everybody comes to work to get paid and have benefits, right? Not many people will do it for free, but we need to make sure that our compensation covers not just what people need to survive, but what they need to support their families and live fulfilling lives. So all of these, to me, fit into this bucket or category of create better human experiences. So next is build resilience. So when we work with employees on building resilience at work and in their personal lives, it's something that's a life skill and something that will serve them well throughout their life. Helping people manage their emotional well-being and letting colleagues know that it's crucial to the company that people have the appropriate coping mechanisms to be able to self-regulate. The stronger a workplace is emotionally, the more dedicated employees will be to the job, which in turn helps productivity. So, wellness programs are a good way to do this. Creating that opportunity for work-life balance, or work-life integration is a new word that I've been hearing a lot. Since these lines are so blurry between work and life, how do we help people cope and make sure that they're taking time to put their things that they need for life in order, and that they're prepared to do the work when it's time to do the work? Some organizations are now offering what's called a Friends and Family Day or a Flex Day to really help promote people to take the time off that they need to make sure when they are at work, they're productive. And then room for failure. So, a human-centric workplace builds room for productive failure, knowing that people are human and will make mistakes. And an empathetic leader creates processes that help people learn from mishaps and move forward. So failing forward is something we've heard over time. It's not easy to do as an organization. So many times I try to encourage leaders to embrace the fail. If they failed, their employees are going to learn from it. If we say, that failure, we can't live with that here, and we let the person go, then we've just supplied their next employer with an immense amount of education, because people will not learn if they aren't allowed to fail. And then social good. So employees want to feel their employer is a force of good in the world. So many times we see employees on social media who are frustrated with their own employer because of a decision that they made, or changes that they're making, or things that they're not doing, whether it's to support the environment or to support things throughout the world. So having social good worked in will also help build resilience. There's things like matching donations, offering time off for volunteering, or organizing community work days can foster gratitude and give employees a sense of pride in their workplace. We all want our employees to be able to, outside of work, talk about what an amazing organization they work for. And these are all things that will help have a human-centric workplace, and in turn build loyal and valuable employees. So this last bucket is offering flexibility. Now more than ever, employees are looking for flexibility. In this post-pandemic world, companies that people will flock to are those that understand that people don't want to go back to the 9 to 5 sitting in an office. Put people first by showing them that there is flexibility within the job and that you care about their emotional, physical, and mental well-being. I know there are many jobs, manufacturing, healthcare, that need to be done in an office or in a workplace. But there are so many things that we can do to attempt to help make their work more flexible, the when they do it, the how they do it. Professional development is that's all about human-centric, right? So humans want the opportunity to grow. Listening about growth opportunities or even growth opportunities available, even if we list it in a job ad, but then when a person comes in, they can't really see the evidence that there are growth opportunities. We want to make sure that we put our words into action. And if we truly are a learning organization and we're an organization that believes in helping people grow their career and develop, then we need to show that we can do that. It can't just be words on a paper. So how do we make the transition to a human-centric workplace and why it matters? Pretty simple. Leaders, be authentic, empathetic, and adaptive. Organizations create better human experiences, build resilience, and offer flexibility. So all sounds pretty simple. Happy, motivated people with a clear shared purpose will generate better results and make things happen. So I am going to, let me just see. I would like to go to the chat here for a second, and I'm just going to take a look and see. People will learn if they're not allowed to fail. Lack of flexibility. Awesome. So glad you put these things in the chat. What I would like to, I'd like to go back a little bit to what is human-centric workplace. And I'm curious if people would share in the chat a couple of things that they've thought of as we've gone through this slide so far today. And we've talked about human-centric workplace. Some things that you're doing in your workplace that feel human-centric. So if people can put a few things in the chat, what makes their workplace human-centric? I'd love to see that. Family-friendly policies, flexible scheduling. Flexible schedules. So people have absolutely figured out how to do this flexible schedule. We thought it was impossible 2 years ago. Allowing people to work from home. I just heard last week in teaching a HR leadership class that one of the attendees said their boss reminds them weekly that they need to work from home at least 1 day a week to make sure they're setting a good example. And I thought that's a boss who really wants their team to walk the walk. And sometimes we just feel like, okay, if we get in the office, we're going to be working harder, but taking that time away is so important. I love seeing these staff shout outs, anniversary, retirement celebrations. Always fighting for the workers, right? Empathetic and understanding. And one of the things we do as HR professionals, we walk that balance beam all the time, right? We are split right down the middle. Half of us is there to support the employee and to make sure we're taking care of our people. And the other half of us is there to make sure we're taking care of the organization. And so sometimes it feels like we're on the balance beam and one side is a little heavier than the other side. But I think when we help our leaders understand how important it is to be a human-centric leader and how it can benefit the organization, they'll understand it will get the momentum of all these awesome things that you guys are sharing. I'm going to pick on one right here. Since the pandemic, our younger staff is more and more interested in having opportunities to connect outside of work as well as inside. So we've created and sponsored a softball team, golf league. We offer gift cards to employees. We walk to a coffee shop down the street and where they can take a coworker. We call it Coffee with Colleagues. That is so amazing. And what does it cost? It probably costs $25 a week or $50 a week, but listening to our employees. So we can't start being a human-centric organization if we're not talking to our people and we're not asking them what's important. So Fran, I thank you so much for sharing that. There's so many amazing things, but really it's the simple. I recently had a couple of millennials and Gen Zs tell me that, you know, it's important to them that their development, that their leader is helping them develop, but they also said, you know, we want a peek into all these meetings, conferences, things you're going to, organizations that you're a member of. They actually want to go to those meetings. And I know, you know, in the senior part of my career, I was like, oh my God, if I have to go to one more chamber meeting or one more, and the young up and coming Gen Zs, they're all about it. They want to know, they want to learn. So there's so many ways to be able to put our employees first and involve them in things that really don't cost a lot of money. We've got Rebecca, work with management on teaching how to treat employee issues as if we were having the same problem. It changes the mindset. We've done a gift card program and monthly appreciation lunches. So small things mean a lot. I totally agree. Thank you so much for sharing those. All right, I'm going to get back to my slides here. So we did flexibility. I'm just going to move us back forward. So what's really different about human-centric work? So I like this slide. It came from, let's see, Gartner, which is another really great resource in the world of human resources. So when we think about what is different in human-centric work, it uses intentional collaboration to drive innovation. So there's people, we think about the disc that we use, right? And there's some natural collaborators in our I's and S's. But when you're thinking about human-centric best practices, we're creating those environments where people can intentionally collaborate. We're inviting them, please come, you know, attend this 1 hour working session or a workshop where we're going to intentionally collaborate. We can't just depend on people doing it on their own. Creating those environments where people are encouraged to collaborate will create a best practice in a human-centric workplace. It provides people autonomy to achieve outcomes. So giving them some say in the way that they're going to get the work done that they do. So for some people, they want the SOP, they want all of the rules of the road, and knowing your people is really important because not everyone needs that. Some employees just need, tell me what the goal is, give me what my guardrails are, and let me have the autonomy to achieve the outcome. So truly understanding, how to bring out the best in your people is going to help you create that human-centric workplace. And then, being able to flex based on underlying work profiles. So what is, has the person been a high achiever? Have they consistently been able to meet the goals and objectives and, make that job a little bit more flexible? So adapting work. So many times I'm able to see that maybe the person isn't ready to fully move into the next level of their position, but they could certainly take on a special project And sometimes, especially, some organizations, maybe they overuse special projects, but I always look at special projects as such an opportunity for an organization to let a person, let them go and see what they can accomplish. So using things like special projects, or having the ability to, to partner them with a more experienced person that can sort of teach them the ropes. We don't need a promotion to do that. We can do that before we get to the promotion, and it'll help the person feel like the organization is focused on them and giving them the opportunity to learn some new things. Being human-centric unlocks talent and business outcomes. So again, right, human-centric is focused on the humans, and tying those together with what the business needs and trying to find a way where there's a good fit and it's a win-win for both. And then trust the data, not gut instinct. So, listening to our people and what they're telling us they want in the workplace, not just saying we can't afford it, or we can't do things that way, or we can't do work that way. Being open-minded and helping our leaders be open to trying new things and working out how we might work differently in the future is also really, really key to being human-centric. So I'm going to talk for a minute about some takeaways, and then I'm going to take us off the slideshow, and I want to open it up, and I would love to hear some people share either questions about how to transition an organization or a leadership group to be more human-centric, or something they're willing to share with the group. We've got an awesome group on today that they're already doing that has helped make their workplace more human-centric. So a couple of things I'm hoping that you'll take away from today's webinar is, really creating that human-centric workplace. It's a labor of love. It's not easy. It takes some thought it affects and it benefits both for the leader of the company and for the team. So taking a minute to take a step back and think about, yes, we've got to get quarterly results. We need to meet expectations. We need to deliver our services, but how do we do that in a more human way? And then another takeaway is hopefully we can have respect for the needs of your people. It's really the best way to keep them fulfilled and growing and doing their best for your business. So we hire people to come to work to deliver something, and we want them to deliver it in the best way possible for the organization, for the people they work with, and for our customers or the people that we're there to support. So I can't say it enough. It's been on many of the slides that I put up today, is happy, motivated people with clear and shared purpose will generate better results and make things happen every single day. And when you meet those people, when I see people who are happy and motivated and they've got purpose, that they love the work they're doing. They care about the organization that they work for. They're feeling heard, respected, and they're part of making that organization more human. So with that, I am going to take us off our webinar, and I'd love to have this an open question and answer. So let me just see how I can best do this. I'm going to stop sharing. Great. I see some people here at the top. And I'm going to open up our Q&A. And our chat. All right, so anybody, let me see if I can take everybody off mute so you can either speak up or we can continue to share in chat. Unmute. I think I have some people unmuted. All right, Jackie, I think I see a hand up. Go ahead. Can you share with the group? Hopefully you can unmute yourself. Jackie, see if you can unmute yourself. I pressed this little unmute button. Deanna, tell me if you can unmute yourself.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Jackie, I'm going to try again. All right. Jackie, maybe you could put your question. I'm not sure why I can't get you to unmute. Okay, you hit it by accident. No worries. No microphone. Anybody else today would be willing to share with the group some things that either you're challenged with in creating a human-centric workplace, or that you would like to know more about? I've got one, I think, in Q&A. So let's see, I'll share. It says here, working for very inflexible managers, and the institution allows flexibility to some, but not others. How to handle this? So again, I'll reread the question. What do we do if we're working for a very inflexible and rigid manager? The institution is allowing some people to be flexible, but not others. So I'll take a stab at it, but I welcome others to speak up. So I think education is a good way to help your rigid manager understand that if we're not flexible, we're not going to be able to attract the best and brightest to the organization. We're not likely going to be able to hold on to the best and brightest in the organization, because those people won't stay, because they'll see opportunities either in other departments or other areas or other organizations that they would much rather go work for versus the organization or the department or leader that's not being flexible. So I think it's about education. I know one of my approaches has always been, send them an article, send them a link to this webinar today so that they can listen in and, learn a little bit more. I think sometimes leaders who are inflexible have a little bit of insecurity themselves, because by being flexible, then they don't feel in control anymore. They don't have that same control. And I would encourage others to speak up here. My Q&A says we have, Q&A. So let's see, Q&A. Looks like I've got another one. Says we have some requirements for when staff, has to work, flexibility, or on schedule, and it can be challenging. So certainly we have to make sure we stay within the guidelines of the organization. A human service agency, our direct care staff cannot have flexibility. It just doesn't work. We have to maintain minimum ratios, and they also have to work shifts. So Grace, I totally hear you. I'm wondering if some of the things that were put in chat earlier, maybe we can't have flexibility in schedules for them, but there's other things that we might be able to do to help them feel more human at work. It might be those opportunities to collaborate with other people, but there's certainly a challenge. I I see your second question. How do we engage second and third shift? How do we offer human-centric support when they cannot attend events, work from home, or be flexible? So again, I encourage others to put in the chat some ideas to potentially help Grace. I think it does mean getting creative. And, you know, I give so much kudos to the Health and Human Service organizations, because you guys have absolutely figured out how to do it with the people you support and how to treat people as humans. But it is one of the toughest types of work. Health and Human Services, manufacturing, flexibility. And flexibility doesn't always have to be in the schedule, right? It can be flexibility in, you know, how they perform their work and the way they get their work done. So thinking about some of those things, it may clearly for manufacturing, if you need to be on site, you're not going to be able to offer somebody work from home in order to make widgets. So we're going to have to come up with different ideas on how to do that. Staff appreciation. I know some people put some things. I go back to this having coffee with a coworker. I think that was really a great approach. If anybody's willing out there to share with Grace, I welcome you to put your hand up. I will go and unmute you. I have no willing participants. Anybody have a question they'd like to put in the chat or in the Q&A that I can try to address for you as part of human-centric leadership? Love ideas. We learn best from the people that have already done that. Don't try to invent them on your own. I want to just remind everybody, human-centric leadership isn't more complicated than treating humans as humans, understanding their struggles and the contributions that people make to the workplace. So I think it's simplifying. When I first heard about this topic of human-centric leadership, I thought, oh, maybe it is a buzzword. Maybe we're back to, you know, are we looking for people? But after investigating it and really understanding what it takes to be a human-centric leader, I found that it's not harder than treating people as humans and understanding their challenges, helping them be successful, providing guidance and leadership for them. Still looking for some ideas in chat. Looks like we got something good here. So Deanna shared with the group, I find with many of my management teams, they will say they value the employee, et cetera, but putting their money where their mouth is in terms of changing policy and culture is where they don't follow through. And you're not alone, Deanna. It is the hardest thing. And, you know, money where your mouth is so key, because part of our job as HR professionals is to help them understand, right? Intangibles are hard to put on the bottom line, but the things we talked about today in human-centric leadership, it's hard to put, is it a $10? Is it $100? Is it $10,000? the cost of turnover or the cost of finding the right talent to join your organization and the cost of a culture. If we could only find the perfect way to put that down on a spreadsheet, then we'd probably get those leaders to put their money where their mouth is. The challenge for us as HR people is really figuring out, how do we show them the value of creating this human-centric workplace? And it's not an easy thing to do. The best way I've found is in, looking at the cost of turnover, looking at the cost of unmotivated workers, productivity. And when you think about, doing some of these employee surveys, to determine employee engagement surveys, are people really engaged at work and doing the things we need to do? Yep, I can see these chat things. Let's see, offer professional development and other meetings during the lunch hour and provide lunch. So food always works. If you have food, people will come. And let's see, provide lunch. It adversely affects women as primary childcare providers to have these opportunities later in the afternoon. It's possible. For some people, being able to attend things after work, it's not easy for them, and making sure that we have flexibility. I know Grace had mentioned, how do we motivate second and third shift workers? We're sort of a first shift world. It's easier for us to provide insight and thoughts for the people who are working on our first shift, because that's typically where the leadership is. So having leadership teams actually work the second shift once in a while, or the third shift, is certainly a way to motivate people and have them spend time with individuals so that they can make sure that they are hearing them and gaining their ideas. Let's see, I've got someone else here. We try to encourage people to truly disconnect, and everyone, no matter what level, finds it hard. It is hard to disconnect. I just thought of, I spoke to my cell phone carrier the other day. They said that, I had been a customer of theirs for 15 years. The girl on the other end said, that's more than half of my life. I've been with the same cell phone carrier for more than half of her life. And so I think about, what was life before smartphones, when we didn't have access to email and we didn't get text messages and we didn't check our phone every 13 seconds. And sometimes we need to just make an effort to set an example that we have to set time aside to take care of ourselves. And to be able to, have some of that wellness, and setting an example is so key. So if we get one of those leaders to sign off on, mental health benefits, and okay, it's going to cost the company $20,000 a year to do that, but we're not actually taking care of that ourselves. It's really important that we set the example and we share with people that we're using these benefits as well. I've got another share in the chat. So we started doing employee appreciation lunches each month. We provide pizza and invite employees who have work anniversaries that month. This is a way to have them spend time with people in other departments that they might not otherwise talk to. Sometimes organizations are so big or so siloed that people can come into the organization, they get their orientation, we walk them around, and then they never see another person in the organization because they don't leave their own workspace. So finding ways to have opportunities that they can share ideas and just get to know people in the organization. So not easy. Not easy, but it can be done. There's no question in my mind. So at this point, I will take any last comments and messages. Oh, we got one more just came in. So another person sharing, we have a program called Above and Beyond Rewards. I love the title already. Supervisors have an annual budget to reward employees with bonus bucks when they go above and beyond. It works really well for us, and we are largely a remote workforce. I love that. And I love it when we have employees who can recognize each other. So sometimes there's so many amazing things going on in our organization and we don't even know it because no one's telling us. But if we create, it's, virtually free, you do it on your intranet site. An employee can nominate their coworker for something amazing they did, like teaching them something to do or helping them with something. And all of a sudden they're getting recognition from their coworkers, which is as important and sometimes feels even better than recognition from the leadership. Have them nominate each other. I had something years ago called the Strongest Link Award. So people who exhibited those characteristics that helped support our culture or our mission and values. And they got nominated for the Strongest Link Award. It was a huge deal to get this carabiner that you put your keys on, but you wanted to be the person who had received the Strongest Link Award. So in finding ways to help coworkers nominate each other or recognize each other for a job well done is a great way to help people feel like they're being recognized as a human at work and making it human-centric. With that, I will thank everyone for sharing their amazing ideas. We will make this webinar recording and the slides available later today. And I thank you all for your amazing participation and for sharing. It's the best way I know to learn more about how we can be better leaders, how we can treat our employees as humans, and be the kind of workplace that everyone wants to work for. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. Share this with your leaders so that they can become human-centric leaders.